You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franson here, one of the hosts of Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Licelle Cobrador is the founding attorney at Cobrador Associates PLLC, specializing in immigration, business, real estate, and intellectual property law and litigation. As a prominent figure in immigration law, Ms. Cobrador provides legal counsel to clients worldwide, addressing diverse issues from executive immigration to extraordinary ability, talent, self-petitioning. With a keen understanding of the importance of efficient legal representation, she prioritizes strategic immigration planning tailored to individual needs. Prior to founding her firm, Licelle gained experience in Manila's legal landscape, working with esteemed firms, the Philippine Congress, and the Department of Justice. Her commitment to the legal community is evident through her roles as vice president and executive director of the Filipino American Legal Defense Fund, and as a volunteer attorney at the Migrant Center of New York. Hey, Licelle, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Tell me, as we get started here, how and when did you know that you wanted to become an attorney?
It started maybe at a very, very early age, around 5 or 6. I was brainwashed by parents who wanted to be lawyers, but didn't really become lawyers.
So 5 or 6, what was it about that attracted you to being an attorney at that age?
So they would keep telling me about attorneys, advocate for justice and fight for those who don't have a strong voice and help defend people's rights. So that was attractive to me as a young child, and they would give examples of like how lawyers have made a difference in people's lives. My mom actually went to law school, but she did not take the Philippine bar.
Hmm.
She graduated from the same law school where I graduated, but just didn't take the bar exam. So I've seen her. She was already a mom when she was attending law school. So I've seen her attend classes, and every time she leaves, I would cry.
Oh, really? Yeah, I could see that. Hey, tell me a little bit about your journey, maybe from the Philippines to the US, kind of your back, how you got into the legal industry and things like that.
Sure. I was a practicing attorney in the Philippines. I'm also admitted to the practice in the Philippines. I was at a Makati firm, comparable to New York City. So I was working there doing, in the Philippines, you don't really specialize in anything. So we were handling all types of cases. And after about almost 2 years of doing that, I wanted to focus on intellectual property. At that time, there was not a very strong intellectual property um, practice in the Philippines yet. And my firm was really interested in having someone focus on IP. I saw master's programs in the US were really attractive, LLM. So I applied to some schools and got accepted into different schools here. But ultimately, I selected the school that offered me the highest scholarship.
Nice. Well, hey, can't blame you for that. So then what happened from there?
Then I finished my LLM. I graduated with an LLM in intellectual property and fell in love with New York City. Although I was intending to be back home, rejoin my firm, I just didn't want to leave New York City anymore. So I wasn't even intending to take the New York bar, to be candid. I was really just ready to leave and like rejoin my firm.
Yeah.
But throughout the LLM journey, it was just 1 year. And that 1 year had such a big impact for me. At the end of it, my father was telling me, this is the culmination of your LLM. Why don't you just take the New York bar? It will be, it's going to be a what if for you if you don't do it. And so I did.
And
And here we are. I'm one of my classmates started his own firm, and he wanted to have somebody who was also keen on building a practice. And immigration law was not at all in my radar to practice because I wanted to do intellectual property. However, as a Filipino, every Filipino asks you about immigration law if you're in the States. And if you don't have an answer, they just look at you like, why don't you have an answer? You're a lawyer, right? So I have to explain that in America, there are specific areas that lawyers focus on. And it just happens that immigration is just not my field yet. But I got interested. I wanted to know more about immigration because of those questions. So in my LLM journey, I chose immigration as an elective. And I started getting more and more interested in immigration. And because that classmate of mine wanted to put up his own firm, he keeps telling me about it, but I'm not too sure, I want to be home but at the end, he convinced me. And of course, because I fell in love with New York City, I didn't want to ever leave. That's what
Mhm.
happened.
So, with regard to immigration law compared to intellectual property law, what is fulfilling about each one? What is most fulfilling about each one?
For intellectual property law, I've really handled just some trademark applications and entertainment contracts for artists. So
Mhm.
what's fulfilling about that is you're helping a small business who want their mark registered, and that's like a huge like proprietary asset for them, right? And for an artist to have their entertainment contract reviewed and to be sure that their rights are being protected, that's rewarding for me. But for immigration, it's really your status. It's your status in a country. So particularly in the US, a person who who for example did not even have any status yet and is applying for asylum after a 3-hour individual trial, that person will have an opportunity to have a permanent resident status here. So that's a huge difference from someone who is fleeing from persecution and someone who is finally having their immigration status. But for our other clients who are artists, entrepreneurs, and at the top of their field, it's really interesting to me because I need to intimately know the person's field, and it's a very diverse clientele.
Mhm.
So delving deep into each person's field of interest, their passion, their talent, and having them finally get their self-petition green card is also super rewarding for me. Most of the people have their own children, their spouses they want to bring to the US and have an opportunity to be here, and we can make that happen.
Would you say part of the reason you're passionate about immigration law is because, you came to the US from a different country?
Correct. I mean, it's very relatable to me. It's really life changing. I've been through the process myself with the alphabet of visas from student F1 to a tourist visa, B1, B2. Then I was petitioned by the firm. I was telling you about a classmate who started his own firm,
Mhm.
and they petitioned me to have a work visa. And eventually, the firm petitioned me to have an employment sponsored green card. And finally, here we are.
Okay, great. So, speaking of your own firm, you established Cobrador and Associates. Tell me what kind of how that came about.
I was with that firm that petitioned me for 7 years. And towards the end of that, like maybe year 6, year 7, I wanted to have like autonomy and decision making ability. in terms of who my clientele will be, how I handle my cases. So it's freedom. That's what really motivated me to start my own practice. But of course, it has a lot of challenges, but I would say it's the best decision I've made.
Can you share a memorable case for you, whether it's in immigration law or some other, one of the other fields that you have expertise in?
Sure. Can I share like two of them, or
Yeah,
am
of
I
course.
limited to one? Thank you, Chad. Okay. So there was one asylum trial that's super impactful because it involved interlocking cases of four siblings. So I had to prepare all four of them, and the trial lasted about 7 hours.
Oh wow,
At the end of it, everybody got granted asylum. So that was super memorable.
nice.
Um, the immigration court in New York, I didn't know that they could go up to 8 p.m. And that's what happened that day. But it was a happy conclusion. For the extraordinary ability petition, some really strange categories. For example, I'm sure you're familiar, for filmmakers, for actresses, models, directors, entrepreneurs, even geneticists could be petitioned under the EB1A self petition. But there was one time that I'm not sure that I was ever the first person to come up with that, probably not. But the category, we called it extreme entertainment.
Mm,
Can you guess what that is?
extreme entertainment. I can't guess. There's a multitude of roads I could go down. What would that be?
The person actually keeps breaking Guinness Book of Records.
Wow,
That's all he does.
wow.
So it's not exactly athletics,
Right.
and it's not exactly art. So, yeah, that person actually got his EB1A green card through our firm at that time.
Wow, that's very cool as well. Can you tell me, you're the first person I've talked to about the extraordinary ability talent. It's the first time I've heard of it. I was reading your intro and I was like, am I reading this right? Can you tell me a little bit more what that is?
So, extraordinary ability visas are, it's called the Einstein visa. And one of the more famous grantees is the former First Lady. She was an extraordinary ability
Hmm.
model. So you can actually self petition. Normally, you need an employer to sponsor your green card if you're going to go that employment based visa petition. But because you're at the top of your field, you're the most desired immigrant of America. So you do not need to go through Department of Labor. You do not have to have an employer. Proving certain criteria that you meet will enable you to get that granted. For example, you need some international or national awards. You need some press features about you and your work. Or you must have judged other individuals. You must have been selected to be part of a judging panel, things like that.
What given your experience with this, what advice would you give to individuals seeking to self petition for permanent residence based on extraordinary ability?
This is a little biased, but you really need to speak to an immigration attorney before you even start preparing anything, because the immigration attorney will lead you to the right path. You will have a roadmap, and the roadmap will be a reliable one, not just searching in the internet. There's so many forums, there's so many, but you're not even sure whether or not those information that you find are credible.
How do you balance timeliness and cost effectiveness in legal representation?
So we are an immigration firm. It's not a time billing. We have a flat
Mm,
fee.
hmm.
So to be more efficient, we really need to streamline our processes. And we inform our clients from the onset that this is how we work. Please be organized. Your files, your folders, we will all be on a thread. and our legal team will be here to support you. Not every instance the attorney will be able to handle each and every question, but if you're organized and you've streamlined the process in the way that we've advised you to, it'll be smooth sailing.
Is immigration law something that's always kind of changing or evolving? And if so, how do you stay updated on all of that?
You're right. It's always changing and it's a hot topic in every election, right? So I keep abreast with the immigration developments. Of course, I'm subscribed to all the USCIS information, email alerts, and I'm also networking with other immigration attorneys all the time. I'm active with bar associations, and in that sense, I'm able to update myself.
Depending on the results of the upcoming election, would that make your job tremendously different one way or the other, or would it just be kind of a slow process?
I think it'll be a slow process. We've experienced some turbulence in the past administrations where there's different regulations. And even today, this April, Chad, they increased the fees.
Mm.
And the filing fees just increasing, some of the packets could be returned if you don't pay the correct fee and you didn't do proper research. I know a lot of people think they can do it on their own, but I think it's worthwhile to still think about hiring an immigration firm.
Hmm. So you've also been a teacher at the University of the Philippines in Manila. Can you talk about that? What drew you to that, and what do you enjoy about that?
A lifetime ago. It was a
Oh,
long
really?
time ago. I was part of University of the Philippines, and you call students there the people scholars because that's a state university, and it's a way for me to pay it forward. That's why I was attracted to teaching in college because my own university. Do you know what our tuition fee was at that time? We
No.
only paid $150
Oh, really?
per semester.
Wow. Amazing.
Yes.
So you've done that. You've done a bunch of other things besides just work in your firm. You've been a volunteer at the Migrant Center of New York. What inspired you to do that?
So, Migrant Center of New York, the one who runs it, the executive director, is Father Julian Agudilla. He's part of St. Francis of Assisi. So, I used to be a volunteer for that church with the hospitality group. We would serve folks who went to Mass right after the Mass. And that's how I found out about the Migrant Center, that they had that Migrant Center. At that time, I was just a student serving folks after Mass. And I really aimed to be more of service. Once I graduated from my LLM, I wanted to be part of Migrant Center. And in the end, I took up all those seminars they had and how to do an intake, etc. But how to best serve them was to be a volunteer attorney. And we serve, people who cannot afford an attorney. If you look at the tax returns and the person is really not earning enough income and cannot afford an attorney. So that's how we would assist people from the community.
You've also been the chairman of the Masters Alumni Community at the Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law. What was that experience like?
It was great. We would organize socials for incumbent students and for alumni. So that's a way for current students to connect with alumni and find jobs and find mentors. It was a really great experience to do that.
Your firm, besides intellectual property and immigration, has a bunch of other or a couple of other kind of areas of expertise. Um, is there anything memorable with regard to your association with that?
So we also do real estate closings, but to be candid, not as many.
Mhm.
It really for select clients who we've already done work for them in the past, and they just happen to buy a new apartment, a new home. And I can just count in my 10 fingers the times that I've done closings. It's rewarding for me because after securing the immigration status of that client, now they're buying an apartment or a house. And that's really amazing.
How did your kind of when you first started your own firm? How did that go? Like, what were the early days like?
So we started at a co-work space I'm sure you're familiar. You share a whole floor with the common areas
Yeah.
with so many other offices.
Hmm.
And our office at that time, 2018, was two small desks. And we were at that co-work space in Long Island City. We wanted to keep our overhead super, super small. But later on, we found that our needs would be best suited being in Manhattan with our own dedicated suite. And that's why we really aim to grow our revenue and be able to move to the city. And it's paid off so far.
How were you able to grow your revenue, starting from, that kind of environment?
It's really the word of mouth from our previous clients. They have their own network and they've been so generous in raving about our services, in recommending friends and family. Um, and they even write on like Google reviews or Avo for us.
What do you enjoy doing outside of work?
Outside of work, I love to meet friends for brunch, catch up with them. Sometimes I read, I do yoga, those things.
How do you balance? I'm sure, especially with some immigration law, some of that can be kind of emotional. How do you kind of balance the emotional aspects of doing that job with, getting the job done and then also not taking it home with you?
Right. I mean, you have empathy and compassion, of course, for clients, but as what they always say, you have to have gas. Don't be empty, right? Um, I really do my best to not work on weekends. And weekends are for me where I get to de-stress, I get to do the activities that bring me joy and reconnect with family. It's really key for me keeping in touch with family members and having a spiritual life.
Hmm. Very nice. I have one more question for you, but first, tell me how people can find out more about your firm.
Sure, we have a website, cobradorlaw.com. Just you can find us in the internet. We're also on Instagram, Cobrador Law. We're also in LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Chad.
I know you've worked with aspiring law students, and maybe you're a mentor with younger lawyers and things like that. What advice would you give maybe somebody who is interested in getting into immigration law that they wouldn't learn in law school and they could only learn from kind of walking in your shoes?
Sure. I think there's a lot of volunteer opportunities that they can sign up for and see how they like it. There's so many nonprofit organizations that they could reach out to see how they like interacting with immigrants and changing lives.
Awesome. Hey, Licelle, it's been great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for your time and all of your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chad. This has been super fun.
So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.